Alright, I'm back with a look at a figure. This line is new to me. This is the Axytoys Dinosaur Battlefield Carnotaurus Warrior Recruit in orange. I think the packaging looks great here. Like I mentioned, this is my first time with any toys from Axytoys, or from this line specifically. Overall, I like the packaging. On the back, we have some different shots of the green and the orange variant of this figure. The side, we have a little close-up shot of him in profile. In the front, we kind of have a holographic display that switches back and forth between the green and the orange. On the other side, we have a picture of the green variant. I'm pretty excited to open this up. The pictures of these figures look phenomenal, and some of the other ones in this line look even crazier. So I'm excited to start with this one. Let's crack her open. Alright, I got the plastic wrap off the outside. I didn't realize this till I did that. This actually has like it has these 3 little seals here specifying it's an orange figure, keeping this front lid closed. I didn't know it had like a window display. But we have the window display there. We can see the figure inside. And there's also a little bit of information over here. Introduction to the world. They kind of talk about this dinosaur battlefield being on a different place and time, on another planet. Talk about these 2 groups, you know, the carnivores and herbivores. I haven't seen any figures that I would say are herbivores. I've seen some of their other figures that seem like they would all be carnivores, so I don't know if there's more to come or if this is something that I've already missed. But that would be cool to see. Alright, now let's really get this thing open. Got the plastic tray out of the box here. This front cover off. It does have some protective film in there like a lot of companies do, Storm or other companies like that. We have the figure itself. Looks like a set of gripping hands. And a tray behind with some of the other accessories. Tail, weapon here, some jewelry, some armor pieces. Alright, let's start with the figure just because I'm impatient. I want to get to the good stuff first. Looking at his head here, it looks like he has an articulated jaw. Some really nice paint details in that head. Those eyes are crazy. So this is my first look at it. I'm looking at this the first time just like you are. So you'll have to forgive me here as we go. But I kind of like looking at it for the first time on camera. Gives a little bit better feel of a first impression. The sculpt work is crazy. I'm really liking this. I might have to edit some of this out, but I'm just going to be appreciating the sculpt work and paint for a while. This is just really, really nice quality to me. Very highly detailed. There's a little, I guess that's to attach his tail. Got a belt, some soft goods, fur here, some armor pieces on the hip. Nice sculpt work and detailing in this belt. Nice color separation there too. Like really not too crazy with the paint apps, but they make a lot out of what they do. It looks really nice. Some more soft goods. Leg armor here. And those feet. Those are some really cool looking feet. Kind of all the way around look at his legs. And these cuffs here. Super cool. Let's look at these shoulder armor pieces that popped off of him there. Or one did. Those are really cool pauldrons. And it's like soft goods too. It almost feels like a leather, you know, leatherette kind of stuff. That feels really cool though. Got some fur detailing kind of in the pauldrons. Got a set of gripping hands here. Nicely detailed, nicely painted. Even the nails are done. It's got the tail. Same work here. The quality on that sculpt is really nice. That paint work is killer. Phenomenal work. Looks to be the only weapon that's included with him. Or maybe the main weapon here. Very nice. I like these improvised kind of looking weapons, you know, really crude, rudimentary style weapons. Looks like he's got a necklace piece, a little bit of rope here, some bone, some teeth. We do have another smaller weapon. I didn't catch that at first, a little like bone dagger, or tooth dagger maybe. And I think these are some like bone bits to hang off of his armor, or off of his belt. Looks like he's got another little bone bit with a hook on it. Oh no, that's a ton of small stuff. All right. Some kind of a leather belt, or maybe a chest harness. Looks like it's probably a belt, maybe for that knife. Looks like a sheath for that knife. And then tons of other little bits. I think these are all things to plug into kind of these ports and stuff around him. I think we have kind of miscellaneous little spikes and hooks and claws and bone bits and stuff to plug in wherever we like. I put on a lot of those miscellaneous spikes and bone bits and hooks and such onto his armor and some of these ports. I put on the belt with his knife here, his axe, some of these bone bits, dangly bits on the belt. I think that's pretty cool looking in his necklace. Got that. I think he looks really neat with all this armor and different bits and bobs put on there. I'm really just taken aback with the painting and detailing on this figure, the accessories and whatnot that comes with him. I think he looks phenomenal. And here we have him with some of the armor removed, the pauldrons and the forearm armor. I swapped out his hands to the smaller gripping hands so he could hold that dagger. The hands were pretty difficult to remove. I used quite a bit of heat. You know, if you have a heat gun, you got no problems. Just I would take your time, be careful, and apply a lot of heat. It took a bit of convincing to get these off of the balls that sit inside. So the hands themselves are like a female port. So it's like a double barbell in there. And it was not really wanting to come out of the hand. It was a little sketchy. But we got it. Wasn't super easy. But I did remove the forearm armor while we're at it. Which the forearm armor, like the shin armor too, is actually kind of modular. So there's like the little guard for the back of the hand. And then any of those ports, you could put the different little pieces that come with it. And it's going to be the same for the shin armor. So this little like toe kick here that's out, it's just a plug and play piece. And these are going to come off the same way as the hands. They are just fit over the calf. So you pop the feet off and these will come off as well. If you pop them apart at the waist, you can also take off the belt and the soft goods and all that as well. But I think he looks pretty cool, up armored or down armored a little bit more savage. Here's a closer look at one of those shoulder armors. I just wanted to mention this too. I didn't realize this until I popped this off, but these also are kind of ported. So you can do the pauldrons, and there's another port there, with or without like these extra armor pieces, or kind of move them around as you like. Alright, I wanted to take a look at some articulation here on this figure. This line, in this figure specifically, is of course new to me, so I want to take a look at it. He does have pretty good like T-pose ability, right? Like the arms go down pretty far, come up to there, and that's kind of a hard stop because of the sculpt work. The arms do come up, but really that's kind of about as far as it comes until you like you can hear that kind of plastic rub there. Doesn't really want to rotate more than that. You can get the shoulder up, just not rotated forward that far. And back, we're kind of at the same thing before it starts hitting the sculpt work there. So out this way is pretty good, down's good. Front and back are not so much. I'm kind of hesitant to really try to... I can kind of force it a little bit, but I don't really want to damage anything. It does have a really good bicep swivel, so we can get these poses. Single joint at the elbow, a little less than 90. Pretty good motion in the wrist here. And because it's a single, kind of a ball with a single pivot there, if you want to go up and down or, you know, or horizontal or up and down, you just have to rotate that kind of that barbell that's in there to get the hand to do that. He does have a diaphragm cut and a waist down here at the joint, so he gets a pretty good crunch going on and a decent looking up. The head kind of helps in that a little bit. There's a decent amount, surprisingly so, articulation of up and down in this head. As far as like a side-to-side tilt, there's not really much. He can rotate though. And then we got the jaw closed, jaw open. Coming around to the back, we do have the tail. The tail is kind of plugged in to a little male part back here that does kick up and down, but it doesn't really seem to lock in any specific place. So kind of where that helps is if you're posing him, this can kind of move back and forth and act as like a little support piece. So as far as posing and getting him to stand, it's pretty easy because the tail can act like a tripod a lot of the time. Then the hips, we can see he's got like a normal ball joint hips, and there is a cut up here at the thigh for swivel. So we got a pretty decent kick out and an all right kick forward. Not much of a kick back. That's about as far as we can go. Single jointed at the knees, and then we have a rotation at the ankle. Got a little bit of up, good bit of down, and then they kind of rock ever so slightly back and forth, but not much. So it's not the most articulated figure that I own by any means. Once you have the armor on him, the shoulder pauldrons, it makes a little bit more sense looking at him that he's not doing these, hyper dynamic poses. But he is also kind of a big, beefy figure. So all in all, I think it's pretty decent. I think it's pretty good. He looks phenomenal though, so that kind of makes up for the little bit of limited articulation. All right, time for my favorite part, the size comparisons. Here we have him between two kind of standard size Mythic Legions, one of their new skeleton, the Viking Falls, and the Ninian Infantry. I think he scales well with Mythic in that standard size there. And here we have him between two other Mythic Legions, one of the Ogre size and one of the Goblin or Dwarf size figures. Still think he stacks up nicely in there. And here we have him next to one of the Neca D&D Warduke and Zesray Studios Cassos from their Combatants line. I think he fits in here size-wise and aesthetically too in these lines. And here we have him between the Storm Collectibles Gold Next 3 Dead Frame Skeleton there, and on the left the Savage Crucible Nin Velenir. Again, aesthetically wise and scale wise, I think he fits in with either of these lines as well. Looks like a pretty versatile figure so far to me. Here we have him between the Star Wars Black Series Luke and an SH Figure Arts, the real, the one and only, Prince of the Saiyans, Vegeta. Some final thoughts here. This line and this figure is new to me. I hadn't really heard of Axytoys or this Dinosaur Battlefield until pretty recently. I saw this figure on kind of a clearance sale, this specific model, so I picked him up at a pretty good price to try him out. So far, I'm really impressed with him. The quality of the look of the figure, I think, is incredible. The articulation is a little bit lacking. The hands were kind of difficult to swap, but I'm not really changing that stuff around a whole lot, so that's not as big of a deal for me. And the articulation is very passable. I can get him into some really good poses, and ultimately I'm not expecting him to do some of the same poses as I would Chun-Li, for example. He's a big hulking dinosaur guy. Doesn't make a big difference to me if he's really flexible or can get into some crazy contortionist positions or anything. The only other negative I'll say is some of the other parts on him that kind of port into the holes are a little finicky when you're posing him. They do have a tendency to kind of pop off as you're handling the figure. The pauldrons included themselves, the pauldrons will kind of pop off of the pegs. Again, if you're not playing with them a ton, it's not really a huge deal. Once I pose them on a shelf, for me anyway, once I pose them on a shelf, they kind of stay like that. Every once in a while I'll change up the displays and, doing some photography. But outside of that, I'm not manipulating them a lot, changing their poses a lot, so it's not, again, for me, a really big deal. If it is for you, you might take that into consideration. But to me, where this figure really shines is the overall sculpt work and the paint work. I think they just absolutely nailed the look of the Carnotaurus. I mean, the head sculpt to me immediately screamed Carnotaurus when I saw it. Overall, it looks like such a good anthropomorphized Carnotaurus to me. There's a really good interpretation. I think he looks awesome. Just an absolute hulk of a guy. And the way he's done out, I could see him being kind of on a, good guy team or a bad guy team, sitting in with whatever faction you want to put him in with on the shelf. Aesthetically and scale-wise, he kind of fits in with a lot of different lines too, so I can kind of pop him in on a shelf wherever I feel like headcanoning him at the moment. So from that standpoint, it's pretty versatile. And I think I mentioned earlier in the review that I hadn't seen any of these herbivores, and just looking around today, I saw that Axytoys put out an announcement for pre-order for some herbivores. So I'm pretty excited for that, seeing some of these other figures coming out in the line, and really hoping to see what comes next for them. For sure not going to be my last figure. So if I were giving him a letter grade, I'd give him an A, because he's convinced me to buy some other Dinosaur Battlefield figures. Alright, thank you for watching. Have a good one.